Well, I'll tell you a story about how I got involved in this, and maybe it will help you understand why I have this kind of perspective and where I'm coming from with all this. And then if you want to talk about how you got involved and why you have your perspective, that's great. I'm happy to listen. But where this came from, let me take you back to the halcyon days of, what was it, the summer of 2023. Oh, how innocent the days were. I was just a young washcloth back then. Yes, I think I was in my either 1L or it might have been my 1L spring, going into 2L of law school. And I had just come off what I thought was probably going to be the defining story of my career, which was stumbling on to this very weird situation at the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission involving a lot of cover-ups and a lot of corruption. And so I was intimately connected to covering state government already in the spring of 2023, summer of 2023. I was even covering sort of the way Roman Abramovich was using a Cypriotic company to fund Curaleaf, a cannabis operator, multi-state operator, led me to like this triumvirate of like oligarchs that rose up under perestroika in the 90s, Boris Jordan, Andre Block, and Roman Abramovich. Crazy stuff. I don't know, the U.S. diplomatic cables, Boris Jordan feeding information to Bill Burns, who then became the CIA director. Very interesting story. I thought that was going to define my career. Little did I know, in the summer of 2023, there was a man named Brian Riccio. And some of you listening to this are probably going to be like, oh my God, like I remember him. May he rest in peace. Whatever you think about his style, the man passed away because of kidney failure. God rest his soul. Brian Riccio at the time, and I'll just give you the full dynamics of this because it's my first space and we're figuring this out. So you get a story. I don't think I've ever actually told this whole story full through from the beginning to end. So at the very least, you'll get that. So summer of 2023, I'm sitting on social media and I was mostly covering the Cannabis Control Commission. Brian Riccio tangentially was covering the Cannabis Control Commission because he used to work or volunteer for Mike Crawford, and Mike Crawford is the Young Jerks. We're on good terms now. So, but anyway, Riccio really hated Mike Crawford at the time. I don't remember what the cause of the fallout was. Riccio just hated him. And so Riccio was watching what I was doing because I was covering the CCC, and I also had used to volunteer with Mike Crawford all the way back to like 2017. So Riccio starts posting. And I'll never forget the first time I saw Brian Riccio's post about the Karen Reed and Turtle Boy cases. For some context, and I think Aidan Kearney would tell you the same thing. Aidan Kearney had covered some of my reporting way before this, the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case. He covered my reporting about Jason Moodley up in Maine. He covered my reporting about Sayun Adajai out in Athol. That was a crazy situation. A lot of people cover my reporting about the CCC because it's really good. I've covered almost all their meetings for 7 years. But anyway, so Aidan had covered me a little bit previously, or covered the work that I was covering, but we had never really like interacted. I didn't understand what Turtle Boy was. I knew a little bit about like the book and how he got unmasked, but I just thought he was someone who like used FOIAs to like mess with local like city councils. And I was like, all right, whatever. I don't really care. And then also I had heard he had like known Rachel Rollins in 2020 because like Rollins sent Rayla Campbell to Joe Kennedy Jr. events during a Joe Kennedy Jr. primary with Senator Ed Markey. And like, it turns out that ends up being a very like integral part of all this. But at the time I was like, who gives a damn that Rachel Rollins knows Turtle Boy? But anyway, so I see Brian Riccio. I'll never forget this post. I think it was the video of like Proctor or his like wife or one of the other witnesses walking past what I thought was a church, but I think it was a library. They were taking a turn around like a white picket fence, and like Turtle Boy with a bullhorn, it was in the middle of the street, and this crowd of people was around him. Now you got to imagine, put yourself in my shoes, okay? I'm a reporter covering like the Cannabis Control Commission. like I see some like crazy stuff, but I don't see people like marching in the streets with bullhorns yelling at people. Like that is just not what happens. So I'm kind of like, what in the ever loving hell it could possibly cause this man to be standing in the middle of the street with a bullhorn and a camera yelling at these people? That was my very first, because Brian Riccio posted it. I didn't even understand why Riccio was mad. I didn't understand why the guy with the bullhorn was mad, and I didn't understand why Riccio was mad. I was just utterly baffled. But Riccio wasn't even almost as interested in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case as he was in the Turtle Boy aspect of all this. So I have no idea what the hell his beef with Turtle Boy is. I'm sure there's some history there. I never asked. I'll listen if someone knows, but I never asked. So Riccio's posting about Turtle Boy yelling, and this was way before Kate Peter was involved or whatever. You want to talk about the origin of social media attention to the John O'Keefe and family and the witnesses around them, and them being tormented, if that's what you want to call it, which I think is fair. Yelling at someone with a bullhorn is a little weird. Anyway, my point is, that's where this first got attention. It was because Brian Riccio, who did know Kate Peter, independent of this for whatever reason, Brian Riccio, it's kind of why I wish he was still alive. He could probably put a lot of this together. Brian Riccio was the one who was posting about this, about Turtle Boy yelling at these people. And Riccio was the one who was trying to get people's attention. Simultaneous to this stuff, I want to be clear, you can go back and look at the footage from the summer of 2023, when I first got involved in all of this, fall of 2023. I was saying to people, I do not have a position on the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case. I don't know enough about it. I don't have a position on it. All I know is something's going on with this Turtle Boy guy, and Brian Riccio's upset about it. That's where I started. That was the position I started from. Now, the reason, I'll tell you that this trail kind of splits off here. I got interested in the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case for a different reason. I was sitting on somebody's back porch down the Cape right around that time, summer, fall of 2023. There's this dude who used to run a series of festivals around here, and he was trying to tell me Karen's movements between 12:31 a.m. on January 29, 2022, and 6 a.m. roughly on January 29, 2022. This man had no idea what he was talking about, and it infuriated me. Absolutely infuriated me. I was not willing to listen to this man try to describe this convoluted route of travel. And his theory, by the way, he was blaming Jen McCabe at the time. He was trying to pin it on Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts. But I was like, listen, I don't know enough about this, and I'm not going to let you tell me. And I got very spiteful about it. I was like, I'm going to go research this just because I'm not going to let you manipulate me about this. Oh, dear God. Little did I know what I was getting myself involved with. All I wanted to do was learn about Karen's route of travel between 12:31 a.m. on January 29, 2022 and 6 a.m. that morning. That's all I wanted to learn about. I swear to you, that's all I wanted to figure out, just to spite this guy. Oh, dear God. That took me down its own path because I slowly started learning about the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case. But these are playing out simultaneously, October, November, December of 2023. I ended up in that courtroom in Dedham District Court when Aidan Kearney got his bail revoked because of Brian Riccio's posting on social media. I didn't know Lindsay, didn't know Kate, I didn't know anybody. I was like, what is going on here? I have to figure out what is going on here. This doesn't make any sense. It's very confusing. What is going on? So I go down to the courthouse. Little did I know that was the day he was going to surrender and then be walked into court in handcuffs and have his bail revoked. I had no idea. I did not know what I was walking into. And so I'll never forget that hearing. I just want to tell you all, and I know even a lot of the turtle riders and whatnot are starting to come around on this. And whether people want to admit it or not, I was in that courtroom. I saw people crying. Okay. That was the most trauma. I can't speak for Lindsay, so I'm not even going to try to explain what that must have been like for her. But as a journalist this was my first time going to a Turtle Boy hearing. I had no idea what the hell was going on, didn't have a perspective. I was there to absorb the information and figure out why this guy was in handcuffs and getting his bail revoked. That was the most traumatizing court experience I've ever been through. I've sat through 10,000 hours of district court and superior court cases as a journalist in Massachusetts. I've sat through a lot of federal court cases. I have never been that traumatized in my entire life. Okay, that was me. That was an observer, a third-party observer. I was so traumatized, I immediately was like, whoa, this is too much. So pull it back a little bit. The hearing starts, okay? This woman in a black dress walks into the courtroom. That's all I remember. I think it was black, might have been a white dress. All I remember is she walks into the courtroom. She has a court officer with her, and she walks right to the stand. Now, the only thought that ran through my mind in that moment was, wow, like, who is that person? You know, I'll be direct. I was like, she's a vixen. Like, very composed. What is this? Okay. Just like, what is going on? After that hearing, I marched out to those, and there's a record of this on CBS News you can find. I marched out of that courthouse. I had never been so righteously sort of empowered in my life after listening to what Lindsay had been put through during that hearing. And I'm not saying right or wrong in the merits or how we got there. I'm just saying I was traumatized. I went out on that courthouse steps. I found this, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was the first time I'd ever been at a Turtle Boy hearing. This gaggle of very angry people, a lot of people I now know and talk to, but they were very mad, and they were just yelling at the news cameras. All right, and there was this guy, Brad Goldstein, who was talking to the CBS reporter, and then the CBS reporter's like talking to them, and she's just going to walk away. And I look her in the eye, and I'm like, are you not going to have anyone speak like about that woman in there? Like, she watched the hearing with me, the other journalist, and she was like, oh, I remember the CBS journalist kind of like, she actually did like kind of like a question mark face. She kind of like rubbed her chin, and she was like, oh, you know, that's a good point. It wasn't Christina or Penny. I don't know the woman's name. But anyway, she's there. She's delivering this report, and she's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. And then she looks around, and she's like, do you want to do it? So there's a clip of me, not even like wild hair, just I had no prep for this. I didn't even know what the hell was going on. I'm standing up there in the news, just like defending Lindsay's honor. Men who use violence against women to silence and intimidate them are the worst dregs of our society. I didn't know her. I just thought it was listening, like, I may as well have been a judge in the case. I had no idea who any of these people were. Just listening to that factual record, I was like, she has been done wrong by somebody. Little did I know. All right, so that's December 2023. As I start to cover the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case, the very first thing I'm saying when I'm going to these hearings to all parties is I'm not going to get to know any of you. My job is to just cover this. All I want to do is learn about what's going on. All right, folks, you want to know, Kate Peter, I think the reason why she gets so much shit from the powers that be that were handling her or working with her, she's the one that brought me to Lindsay's. Sometime in like March of 2024. She did it. First she brought, okay. Then this is the weird part. I think Kate Peter like saw me posting, because literally when I started covering the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case, it took a long time to learn all the facts. I spent a lot of time. I went through every document. I started keeping up with the documents. Dee Dee and I became Team Dr. Bucket Stars at a certain point, with Dag in there as well. We were covering every single document, all right? I spent a lot of time, and I came to learn about the case. So I'm in March of 2024, February, March, whatever. I'm posting a lot about the case because it's about to go to trial. The first trial is about to happen. If you remember, it was supposed to be in December of 2023. It got delayed to like March, then it got delayed to like April, and then it started, all right? The first trial. I'm like starting to cover this. Okay. I'm like talking about it, doing streams about it. I think what we did was way back. If you look at my first ever YouTube streams, all we did was just read the documents, like for hours and hours and hours. We would just read them. All right. Well, Kate Peter approaches me and asks me to meet her at a Chick-fil-A. Now, I already thought this was a little weird, bro, because like for a number of reasons. Like one, I'm autistic. So like, I don't want to meet you in a parking lot. Like, what the fuck? I don't want to meet you at all. Why are you approaching me? Like my guard was up. But she's like, yeah, let's meet in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. I forget, it was somewhere on the South Shore. I don't even know why I was down there. It might have been like going to Brockton to go to the dispensary or something. I don't know. But I agreed to meet her at a Chick-fil-A because it wasn't that far out of the way. And I didn't eat Chick-fil-A, but I was thinking, all right, I'll get Chick-fil-A. No, we sat in the car in the parking lot. Right? It was in my car because I remember her distinctly, her being to my right. Okay. Sitting in the car's off. She's talking to me. We were talking. She was like screening me. We're talking for like 2 or 3 hours. This is when I should have known. And I think I did know something was wrong because Kate Peters like, oh, someone's coming to give me money. All right. Someone's coming to give me money. Or something like that. Like I have to meet someone in a white Toyota Corolla. All right. Now, and Christy must know who this person is because Christy Citroni, who, by the way, people are like, Graham must know Christy. I don't. She's apparently like my second cousin or something. I have no idea. I had no idea who she was before this. I still don't know her. I haven't even responded to her DMs. I think she's a little mad about that, but she's doing good work. So she's almost a towel. She's getting there. She's kind of funny. Very insightful, very witty, intelligent, if you can understand what she's doing. Kind of like me, but I don't know her. Just like I didn't know Liz Siracusa, Michael Proctor's wife. She went to my high school, apparently. I didn't know her. I did not know her. But Kate's like, there's a Toyota Corolla coming to the parking lot. It's white. And the person in the Toyota Corolla shows up. All right, Kate gets out of the car with me. I don't actually see the person in the Toyota Corolla and Kate interact, all right? I'm just being a little towel. I'm not like spying on her because I didn't know what was going on. I'm just sitting there. Okay, Kate comes back from the Toyota Corolla. And in hindsight, the only reason she would have done this is to try to indicate to me that I could get a part of this too. I didn't get it at the time. I'm autistic. I'm not really like that. Okay. You do something like this to me, I'm not going to get it. I'm sorry. You got to be direct about it. And you don't want to be direct, which is why she didn't do it directly. She comes back into the car. She has a white card, like a white card holder, like an envelope, nothing written on it. She opens it up. It's a green thank you card with gold lettering that says thank you on the outside. All right. She opens it up, no writing on the inside. There was like a space for writing on the left side of the card, black lettering, two black lettered words above the blank space on the left side, completely blank paper on the right side, blank side of the card on the right. She opens it up and it's just money. It's $400 or $500 bills, like multiple 50s, probably more than 5, maybe 7 to 8, and then like a load of 20s. And I was looking at the serial numbers to see if they were sequential. They weren't, but it was a substantial amount of money. The only reason she would have been showing that money to me, in my opinion, was to say to you, this is what's on offer. Okay. That was what she was going to be saying. That's what I think was on offer. All right. She didn't end up I'm kind of dumb like that. I had no idea what she was doing, but that's what I, in hindsight, believe she was doing. But then, to continue this story, Kate Peter was, I don't know why she thought this was a good idea, because I would never stay quiet. I didn't accept I think she was trying to let me know I could like work with her, but I'm so dumb that I didn't understand it. And by the way, I also would never have done it. I'm just telling you, even if she had said to me, I would like to bribe you to work for us, I'd be like, no, you cannot buy me. But anyway, the point is, stupidly, she then takes me, I don't know if it was that day, it might have been that day or relatively around there, right after that. She was screening me. I think she was screening me and thinking about putting me on the payroll. And the latter was never going to happen. But I passed her screening or whatever the hell she was doing because she brought me over to Lindsay's. I don't know why. In hindsight, I kind of believe that maybe she was like, oh, like, Graham will talk to her, like Graham and Lindsay will talk to each other. Then they'll like have a support, like Lindsay will have a support system. All right. The first time that Kate Peter brought me over to that apartment, I'll never forget, like she had to leave early and Lindsay and I like stayed to talk for a little bit. I remember the look in Kate's eye as she walked out of that apartment. It was like, oh, fuck, what have I done? Yeah, well, you caused this, Kate Peter. Anyway, so that was like March, got to be March, because in April of 2024, I'll tell you, and people wonder why I get so passionate about this. This is nothing I haven't talked about before, but you are not going to tell me, of all people, I'm not going to speak for Lindsay. You are not going to tell me that the release of Lindsay Catani's cell phone extraction did not have serious ramifications. Like, I can't even conceptualize what the impact was on Lindsay and her family's life. I don't think my life was ever the same again after April of 2024. As traumatized as I was from that December 2023 court hearing, what happened in April of 2024 was the worst thing that I have ever seen happen to any human being in my entire life. Oh, hi, Lindsay. How are you? I've just never seen anything that horrific. The leak of that cell phone extraction, the impact that it had, the fact that no one even understood how severe it was because people were so distracted by the polemics of it. People were so excited, quote unquote, to be able to smear Lindsay, and the distraction was so powerful that no one asked, one, why did this happen? Or two, what was the impact? And that's what really got me so passionate and furious about this. It wasn't an issue of substantive guilt or innocence about anyone. It was that I was seeing the same exact stuff happen in this situation to people without political connections that I saw happen to the staff of the CCC when really powerful men started getting very, very, very close to each other in positions of power. And then when they would do bad things to women, they would just talk to each other. One guy would run the HR department. The other guy would run the executive director position, and somebody else would have a connection to the appointing authority. And so any complaint would just be what's called caught and killed. And I said, there is no way that this is going to happen again. When it was happening in the CCC, it was an administrative regulatory agency. At least there was some sort of semblance of check and balance. It wasn't egregious because everyone had a lot of influence, even the people who were staffers. This situation, we had state police officers, people who, if you were listening to the narrative of the people who were supporting the Justice for John O'Keefe movement, you would think that Michael Proctor's infallible. You would think Brian Tully's infallible. You would think Kate Peter's infallible, which means incapable of fault. That's nonsense. I'm telling you right now, that's nonsense. And that's why it was so easy for this stuff to manifest. And that's why I became so personally concerned. Forget about what developed from April to 2024 and from April of 2024 until now. That's why I was so upset, because I watched what happened from December of 2023 through to April of 2024. And that enough was so egregious, so wrong, such an abuse of trust, such an abuse of the justice system that I said, there is no way that I can just stand by and be apathetic about this, no matter what the price, no matter what the obstacles, no matter what the pressures. And I can't tell you, it tore families apart, these cases, if you didn't live through it. It tore communities apart. I don't believe anyone in Massachusetts around this area, 128 or Dedham or whatever, was able to live a life that was not impacted by, in some way, by this case. Okay, these cases, the Turtle Boy case, Karen Reed case, et cetera, et cetera. It frustrates me to no end that somehow within that high profile situation, there were people who started to control the narrative because they had things to hide. And that's why I started this space, because I truly believe that the real secrets lying beneath what was really going on with Michael Proctor and Brian Tully and Kate Peter and the PI Marty Kraft and Jen McCabe and Yuri Buchanan and John Fanning and Nick Garino. What I really believe was going on was that they were worried that the attention brought onto that unit by the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case was going to spill their secrets about Birchmore. And it led them to double down and commit even more egregious acts in the context of some of this other behavior, like leaking Lindsay Gattani's cell phone extraction. And that's, again, you want to talk about the timeline from April 2024 until now, we can do that too. But what I'll tell you is the story ends up being the same. I have graphs. I've looked at the Google Analytics. The data does not lie. Every single time, starting in April 2024, that Jen McCabe would become a subject of public attention, it happens at specific discrete moments on the timeline. You see a bump in the attention paid to Lindsay Gattani. And there's no doubt in my mind that this unit, when they had Michael Morrissey make that video, when McCabe's friends or family or whatever, when they all got him to make that video and that didn't work, when Morrissey had to recuse, when things got so bad that they had no other out and the Turtle Riders would not pay attention to anyone but those witnesses, they said, all right, we're left with no other option. Lindsay Gattani looks like a good distraction. Let's release her phone. And then that cycle repeated over and over and over and over again. And Lindsay's not the only one who's been subject to this. You want to talk about what's going on to Esty? Even what's going on with Deanna, what's going on with a lot of these people. All right, there were PIs and moles and I'm not saying that Lindsay was that, I'm separating that. There were PIs, moles, and various people and just sort of people who were trying to either support Karen or support a movement that they could believe in or whatever it was, who got exploited, who got ran by various people for intel purposes to feed information back to their various handlers. And when they became expendable, they got burned. You look at these emails sent to all these people's schools, the mass emails. That can't be a coincidence. Whoever it benefits can't be a coincidence. All right. It's a coordinated tactic. It's designed to put public attention on very specific people when otherwise damaging information gets released. And what have we seen over the past, let's say from April 2024 until now? What have we seen? That over and over and over again. All right. Every time something would happen, there'd be a new distraction. And then as we got through the end of the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case, what did we see? Yes, there were some real secrets lying beneath in terms of this case. And I mean it. I mean it with every bone and fiber in my towel body. There were secrets about the Birchmore case. There were secrets about that phone extraction. There were secrets about the inside baseball and the communications between Tully and Cade and Tully and Jen McCabe and Michael Morrissey and Tully and Michael Morrissey and Cade and Michael Morrissey and Jen McCabe. And as it all started to come out and as it crescendoed, folks, over the past few months to the point where Michael Proctor's own attorney was basically making misrepresentations to the court about the existence of 12 years of cell phone records. When you had Kate Peter deleting evidence from Google Drives that were submitted as formal records to grand juries in the Aiden Kearney proceedings. When you have a special prosecutor statute that is so broken, it allows a DA, rather than complying with a court order to appoint a new special prosecutor, to just null pros cases so that stuff like what we've been talking about doesn't come out. It's indefensible. But what is the karmic justice here? It is that for whatever reason, Michael Proctor's cell phone records, which I truly believe were captured and swept up by the feds during their federal probe of either Farwell or Tully's unit or John O'Keefe's death, whatever it was, exposing a lot of this. It's not just the Rule 14 discovery related to Kate Peter and otherwise and Tully that was turned over in the Aiden Kearney case, the 5,000 pages of material. Initially, 4,000 pages of it was mysteriously just blank. It's not just that, folks. It's also the way Michael Proctor's cell phone, until months ago, August of 2025, was hidden from the public. It was hidden from criminal defendants until someone somewhere must have informed Michael Proctor that a full copy of that cell phone already existed, so there was no point in him continuing to hide it. What does this speak to? Well, it speaks to why I started this space today. Because in light of everything I just laid out from memory, I wanted to see if there was a single person who would be willing to stand up here and defend Michael Proctor's state police unit, Brian Tully, John Fanning, Yuri Buchanan, any of them, or Kate Peter, or Jen McCabe. Not because of their actions necessarily in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case, but because of everything I just laid out. And the silence will let it speak volumes, because how are you possibly going to counter any of that? This is what I'm doing from memory, sitting here while trying to challenge people to a debate. That is just a part of the historical record. I cannot put into words how much more expansive in scope some of this story is. And it's not any one person's story to tell. Let me also go on a rant about this. I'm getting so frustrated with the possessive approach that some people take to some of this coverage. Do you care about what was done to the most vulnerable? I don't care if you think of Karen as vulnerable, Lindsay is vulnerable, Sandra Birchmore is vulnerable, whoever you think of as vulnerable. Do you care about what happened to them? Do you care about righting the wrongs? Do you care about actually talking about the misconduct? Or are you trying to make a polemical point in furtherance of some specific platform that either you run or you support? What are you trying to accomplish? And I think a lot of us recently have been forced to have some very difficult moral reckonings. Okay? Because a lot of us were tricked. I felt absolutely tricked into supporting Michael Proctor. If I knew, I'm not saying about the merits of the John O'Keefe investigation, if I knew then, back in 2023, 2024, what I know now about what's on that phone and about what that unit was willing to do, I never would have supported them. Would have supported Lindsay, but I never would have supported that unit. I'm sorry. Nope, never would have done it. And that's what I want to talk about. People became very possessive about coverage of this case. Reporters are supposed to fade into the background. It's not supposed to be about us. Yes, maybe you have some skills as a reporter. People are interested. You use those skills to get a following so you can tell a story and get the facts out there. But it's not supposed to be about us. If a reporter is the centerpiece of a story, they have failed. Okay? You just blend into the background. You make sure that the people who are the most harmed, their voices are centered. And then you make sure these predatory vultures, like Kate Peter, are unable to manipulate public narratives to protect entrenched systemic power structures. That's what it's all about. So for me, that's why I get so frustrated. That's why I wanted to do this space, because I wanted to make a point that when forced to actually debate on merit, all the propaganda mouthpieces will run from the chance. They're happy to get up and shit talk other people when it's a space they control and they don't have to address the merits. But you put them in a position where they don't control the space and they're forced to debate on merit and they'll run from it. So in some sense, I made my point. But I also think it's an important exercise in telling this story, in explaining where I'm coming from. I think there are a lot of us that are all coming to the same position, which is it doesn't matter what various camp we may have been in or whatnot. We're not defined by that. We're just individual humans who have a bunch of views on different cases. And at the end of the day, a lot of us, more so, I think, than people realize, actually care about systemic reform. We're not in it to protect Kate Peter or Jen McCabe or Brian Tully or anybody. We're here to hold people to equal standards and ask that the justice system do the same. And I think that's a noble goal. That's something that I can believe in. I wish people would be willing to debate it, though. It frustrates me. It really frustrates me. And, maybe that's the nature of it. Maybe it's that making this point requires showing the litany of evidence, showing the sort of timeline, showing the overlapping concentric social circles, talking about these people, talking about what they did, talking about the implications, talking about where this is going. That's what cuts out the propaganda. To me, everyone is capable of fault. I said this the other day. If there are people out there in your orbit who are telling you that they are incapable of fault, they're a threat to the United States. They're the most dangerous, pernicious force we can imagine. Everyone's capable of fault. And we should look to the people who, in spite of their faults, try to leave the world a better place than what they found when they arrived. I think there are those of us, in spite of absolutely incredible odds, who have somehow managed to get to a point where we've centered the voices. We're not there yet, where we're centering the voices who are actually impacted by all this. And if that happens, mark my words, it will not be because of any large media platforms or networks or anything. It will be in spite of them. It will be in spite of their inside dealing, in spite of the documentary contracts, in spite of the news networks. It will be because a small group of well-meaning people were willing to band together and say, everything else aside, we can stand behind what's right. It may not be a form of right that we all agree on, but starting from that place instead of from a place of hatred or otherwise is a good step. I don't know where this is going. I don't know where it's going. I know that no one will stand up here and defend Kate Peter and Brian Tully, at least in a debate with me where I control the playing field. Can you blame them? But I don't know where this is going. You know, my prediction, as someone who's, I have not lived this as much as some other people, but I've lived it a lot. All right, it's been a lot, and I'm never going to understand the impact that this had on the people who it directly impacted. But it's been a lot on a lot of people. All right, this story has impacted many lives. Even myself, with the perspective I have, kind of sitting back here on my veranda. You can call me Thomas Jefferson Towel. I don't have any hemp though, or do I? Sitting on my veranda, kind of looking forward from here. All right, I got my public records request back today. I know when a public records request denial is like, oh, we want to stonewall this because there's something there. And I'm getting that vibe related to the contacts between the Norfolk DA's office and the Mass AGO's office between September 25th and October 24th of 2025 related to whether the Norfolk DA had reached out to appoint a new special prosecutor in the Lindsay Gattani and Aidan Kearney cases. But as I'm sitting here on my veranda with my eyes closed, I don't have a veranda, I'm at a desk, I'm a little towel. As I'm sitting here with my eyes closed, I can see the future materializing. Okay, there's only certain roads that this can go down. There are only so many pathways left. There's a reckoning coming, folks. Whether it's a reckoning by way of the Sandra Birchmore cover-up, whether it's a reckoning by way of Michael Proctor's attempt to hide a substantial amount of evidence across a substantial number of criminal cases, whether it's related to Kate Peters' involvement in the handling of evidence in the still remaining Aidan Kearney cases. You can sense the anticipation. You can sense the apprehension and anxiety. And you can sense imminent closure. I'm not saying that is going to be an easy process. I'm not saying it's going to be a short process. But I'm saying there's something in the air. It's undeniable. There's little left to defend. There's not a single person, troll or otherwise, anonymous account or whatever, who would stand up here today, right now, and with me and try to defend Kate Peter and Brian Tully. I gave you the chance. There's a time, if I had done this space a year ago, oh, people would have been jumping at the bit. No one will do it. No one. Why? Because we're at the end of the road. What Proctor did was indefensible, not in the Reed O'Keefe case, although he should never have used those words about her. I'd critique him if he was a private citizen, although obviously I'm protective of women. All right, say what you will about that. I wouldn't use those words in private. That man used them in his capacity as a police officer. All right? Not to mention the other defendants' cases that were impacted by whatever Proctor and Sean Good and whoever else was on that text chain and whatever else is on that phone is going to lead to. You can sense it. You can sense the reckoning coming. The question is, back to Watergate in the 70s, there was a member of the House of Representatives during the impeachment hearings in 74. We had a very famous phrase. What did the president know, and when did he? Folks.
In 1972, the country was in deep distress over potential criminal wrongdoing by President Nixon. Howard Baker was appointed vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities, also known as the Watergate Committee. He and Chairman Sam Ervin worked together to ensure that the truth was found. In Senator Baker's own words, he would let the chips fall where they may. As an anxious nation watched the televised committee hearings, it heard Howard Baker ask his now famous question.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
I had the honor of serving as Senator Baker's chief minority counsel on the Watergate Committee. I watched and learned as he put the good of the nation above politics. As persons of all political persuasions observed after Watergate, Senator Baker acted as an honorable and effective inquisitor who placed above all else his devotion to his country and his duty to learn the facts. The system survived and thrived despite the crisis. That's in large part due to the integrity and determination of Howard Baker.
It was in that spirit that we worked together. We understood that there were some things that were more important than gaining immediate partisan advantage. And there's some things that were necessary to do in order to preserve and protect your own constituency. In my case, the Republican Party.
The phrase of our era will be, what did Michael Morrissey know, and when did he know it? This cannot stop with justice for any single person involved in this. This is not about any one person at this point. This is about a system of justice in Massachusetts that, I suppose, long before any of us realized it, was teetering on the brink of collapse. Annie Dukem was a warning that we all ignored to our peril. I should have seen it when they somehow got Lindsay, that same lawyer that Annie Dukem had. I should have seen it. It's not. I didn't realize it till last week. That lawyer George was a handler. Dukem could have created huge exposure for some people in the state police. It's incredible. If somebody painted the picture of the power structure that was at play here, Karen Reed, when she said she was afraid of these people, when she said it in a text or something and somebody leaked it. When I first started covering this case, I would not have got it. I would have been like, what do you mean? They're a state police unit. Like, yeah, they're paramilitary. Like, you're a criminal. If you're a criminal, you should fear them, but they're not scary. Right now, after some of the stuff, and I'm not even talking about half the stuff I've seen these people pull, they horrify me. I think they're cornered, by the way. I don't think there's much they can do. They're getting a little desperate, burning a lot of their agents and their moles. And that's why I sense a reckoning coming. You don't burn deep cover moles. Like, I think Deanna was a deep cover mole for Kate for a while. You don't burn somebody like that unless it's almost over. Same thing with Christie, the way Christie's just been burning everybody. I don't know who the hell she was working for, but whatever she's doing has got to be close to over, because you don't burn everybody down unless it's almost over. So why is it almost over, folks? Why? What's coming? Some combination of all of this stuff. And if you want my fundamental prediction, let me give it to you like this. I don't like that it's coming to this, but it's a political question, okay? It's a question of what the narrative is going to be. You don't just, as everyone now knows, you don't just prosecute people because they do things wrong. There's always a decision tree. So what do the feds want out of this? The people who were involved in the cover-up of Sandra Birchmore's murder, whoever was the father of Sandra's unborn child, we know it's not Matt Farwell. And then they obviously want this unit, okay? Michael Proctor, that cell phone, didn't just get cloned. It was a setup. They let Proctor lie to the judge about all those cases and all the cell phone records, and as soon as his lawyer filed the document, they moved on him. He must be under federal investigation. How did Aidan Kearney get those text messages from Jen McCabe to KF and Allie McCabe? Those were removed from Jen McCabe's extraction. The feds cloned her phone too, just like Aidan told Lindsay in those text messages as part of Exhibit O from November 28, 2023. Why did they clone Jen McCabe's phone? To see what she would withhold in the Rule 14 process. She didn't get banged up on charges federally, so she must have not done anything that bad. Something's going to happen to Proctor legally on the federal level. You can sense it. You can sense it. They're going to indict him. I don't know for what. But then it leaves Tully, which was what this whole stream is about. We have the email from Tully. Forget about whether it's normal procedure for Tully to instruct Proctor to look into all the defense witnesses. We now know that Proctor was not running that case. It was Tully. It was all Brian Tully. What was the meme that I put up today? I really like this one. It says, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm Brian Tully and I'm here to help. Attributed to Ronald Reagan. My point is, though, it was Brian Tully. Look at it. Kate was his little, I don't know, what do we want to call, how can we say this nicely? You know what? I'm trying to rise above and encourage more reasonable, respectful discourse. So Kate was his little, this is so hard. All right, let me say a prayer here. Come on now, you can do this, Tao. Kate was his little, there are so many words I want to use. Kate was his little assistant. I know. You were expecting something wonderful. Every single thing that I was going to say there was going to be cruel, so I'm sorry. Kate was his little assistant, his little PI there, running around, nightmare PI moms, version 2, Kate Peter, Jen McCabe, let's go down the seaport. Kate Peter was his little PI, and Tully was quarterbacking all this. I think it was Morrissey who was even cut out of the loop a little bit, although I'm not sure he wasn't more involved than even I'm willing to say right now. And you can see why it happened. Because when Morrissey recused in October of 2023 from the Aidan Kearney and what became the Aidan Kearney and Karen Reed investigations that are still ongoing, he didn't really recuse. He just said Tully and Kate running it. And I'm starting to wonder if Jen McCabe was like a PI for a case she was a witness on. I'm really starting to wonder that.